Hello, everyone. So, welcome to episode 2 of the Divine Masculine series. So, today I thought we would talk a little bit about the father wound and healing the masculine lineage. So, today's topic will be understanding how your divine masculine's bond with his father shapes his love, power, and union capacity. So remember, guys, in the sacred journey of the twin flame path, we often speak of wounds, abandonment, betrayal, ghosting, rejection. But one of the deepest and most silent of all wounds in the divine masculine is the father wound, the soul level imprint left by the relationship or the absence of a relationship of his biological or ancestral father. Whether your divine masculine was raised by a loving, absent, passive, or authoritarian father, the energy of the father becomes the first archetype of divine order, protection, and power. His capacity to love, stay, express, and commit is profoundly shaped by this early blueprint. So let's now break this down through the three layers of impact. Number one, excuse me, how his father, how his relationship with his father shapes his capacity to love. So remember, guys, the father is often the first mirror of our divine masculine. So when we look into how our divine masculine's relationship with his father shapes his love capacity, we can often look into these mirrors. So the father is often the first mirror of what it means to be a man, how love is earned, given, or withheld, whether emotion is seen as strength or weakness. What staying power, purpose, and presence look like? When a father figure is cold, critical, absent, or unpredictable, the divine masculine often learns that emotion is unsafe or weak, that love is something he must achieve, not receive, that power is dominance, not presence, that leaving is safer than vulnerability. So, this is the reason why our divine masculines tend to portray that runner phase, that absence phase, because he may have been conditioned by a father wound to believe that leaving is safer than vulnerability. So when he meets you, his divine feminine, radiant, open, soft yet strong, his system short circuits. You awaken everything he was never taught how to hold. You trigger the grief of his father's silence. You become the sole mirror of what his inner boy always needed and never received. So remember, guys, his avoidance isn't rejection of you. It is the soul's panic in the face of unconditional love that his nervous system was never prepared for. So, number 2, breaking karmic cycles of silence, dominance, or absence. So, the father wound does not begin with your divine masculine. It is often a karmic lineage passed through generations. Men who were taught not to feel, fathers who worked but never connected, grandfathers who fought in wars and numbed their pain. Emotional disconnection masked as discipline or strength. Hence why in the masculine ancestral line, we often find these three karmic shadows. Firstly, the absent father, physically or emotionally unavailable. Secondly, the dominant father who uses control to replace connection. Thirdly, the silent father, present but disconnected from his own heart. Each of these create a void in your divine masculine, and that void becomes a behavioral imprint. And this is what manifests as he goes to avoid becoming his father. So that ghosting part is often because he doesn't feel good enough as a man. He doesn't feel that he'll be able to protect you or nurture you. And that's when it directly hits his father wound. So that's why he goes to avoid becoming like his father. So your divine masculine also overworks to prove he's different. He hides because love brings up guilt or inadequacy. So deep within your divine masculine desires union but believes he's not enough. And that's why, often when we are dealing with our divine masculine, especially in his wounded phases, you would often notice that everything he's trying to do falls under the umbrella of trying to protect you than being with himself. So it's kind of a contradiction, right? So that's why once he starts healing the father wound, your divine masculine begins to realize that his father, his ancestral fathers, grandfathers, great grandfathers are not him. So this is when he realizes that he does not have to repeat what he may have inherited, but he can become the father he needed to himself, to his future, and towards us, the divine feminine. So, thirdly, the divine feminine, as the divine feminine, we tend to act as a mirror of divine reparenting. So often, as a divine feminine, we are not his mother, we are not our divine masculine's mother, but we often mirror the mother and father he never truly had. So, example, when you stay soft in his silence, when you hold loving boundaries when he flees, when you reflect his divinity when he feels shame, and when you speak the truth with compassion instead of punishment, you become the embodiment of divine reparenting. And this only happens when you yourself, as the divine feminine, are in an awakening state. Because when we are not in our awakening state as a divine feminine, we tend to, do it all wrong. We are loud in his silence. We don't hold boundaries. We, instead of, understanding, we react. So that's the reason why. Remember, this is sacred, not sacrificial. You're not here to raise a man. You're here to awaken the man within the boy by allowing him to love himself by loving yourself first. And as you notice, when your divine masculine starts to heal his father wounds, and when you start to heal your own father wounds as a divine feminine, perhaps feeling unseen, unheard, unprotected, you help to alchemize his. So, by not fixing him, but by no longer enabling the echo of his unhealed lineage. So, as the divine feminine, when we stop chasing, pleasing, and overholding and love bombing, we break the karmic mothering loop and open the space for the divine masculine to rise, initiate, and reclaim a sacred role as a human being, as a man, as a divine masculine. So remember this, the divine masculine cannot fully hold you. his flame until he learns to hold his own inner child. Every time he leaves, avoids, or shuts down, this is the question as a divine feminine you got to ask yourself. Who is living right now, the man or the boy? And the moment he chooses presence over escape, truth over avoidance, stillness over dominance, the father wound cracks open and light pours in. So that is why when your divine masculine and when we as the divine feminine, when we start healing our father wound, we inspire our divine masculine to heal his father wound. He learns emotion is strength. Silence can be replaced with presence, that he's worthy of love without having to earn it. And he is not his father, he's the bridge that ends the cycle. So that's why, I wanted to delve a little deeper into the father wound. So, soul level healing of the masculine lineage in the twin flame journey is very much necessary. And this is when we look deeper into the father as the first archetype of the divine masculine. Remember, before a man ever falls in love, before he chooses a mission, before he says, I love you, he learns how to be by watching his father. The father is the first embodiment of power, presence, structure, and love. Not just a parent, but the first map of what the masculine is allowed to be. So, for example, if the father is silent, love becomes voiceless. If the father is angry, power becomes violence. If the father is absent, love becomes longing. And if the father is conditional, love becomes something to earn. So, these are key points to delve deeper and see how it applies to your own twin flame journey. So remember, the father wound becomes the soul's first imprint of distortion in masculine energy. And in most men, especially our divine masculines, this wound is deeply buried under armor, success, or avoidance. And you may ask this question, why? Because he does not even know it's a wound. He simply believes this is what men do. This is how love works, and this is how he needs to survive. So when you look deeper into the energetic blueprints, when the father wound imprints in your divine masculine's field, you will realize that the wound doesn't just live in his memory. It codes itself into his energetic fields, affecting his root chakra. So the question is, can I be safe in my body, in my role, in my presence? His sacral. Can I feel without shame? His solar plexus. Can I take up space with purpose, not control? His heart. Am I allowed to receive and offer tenderness? His throat. Can I speak my truth without fear of punishment? His third eye. Can I trust my soul's vision, or must I follow someone else's? His crown. Is the divine a judge or a father who forgives? So, the unhealed father would create a distorted masculine identity for your divine counterpart, one that often feels like he must perform or achieve to be worthy. He cannot feel or express emotion without shame. He must always protect and never surrender. That he's never enough and he will eventually be rejected. So this is when the twin flame triggering happens, when the divine feminine, when we meet the wound, when we meet his wound. So as the divine feminine, we are not just a romantic partner for our divine masculine. We are our divine masculine's soul catalyst. Our presence is about love, softness, and strength that triggers the father wound directly. So that's why when we are soft, he's reminded that no one has ever held him gently. When we ask for his presence, he remembers the father who never stayed. And when we speak love freely, he's terrified it's conditional. And when we see his soul, he panics because his father never truly saw him. So he runs, not from you, but from the mirror of a love that feels too pure for a boy who was never fathered. So this is not immaturity. This is soul shock. And this is what often happens, working with so many clients over the years. This is a big thing that pops up, when the divine masculine doesn't go through a father wound healing. It tends to affect him in more ways than you can imagine. And that's why a father wounds healing is recommended at some stage, and as divine feminines, we can always do it on our divine masculine's behalf. And so that's why it's so crucial to look at this aspect, which is often not looked deeply into. So that's why, for him, for the first time, when he meets you, his nervous system is asked to hold something that feels like home, but it doesn't match what he knows love to be. So let's look a bit into the karmic lineage, the inherited silence. So most divine masculines are not just healing their own story. They are the endpoint of generations of wounded fathers. Grandfathers who fought in wars and never spoke again. Fathers who turned to alcohol because feelings were forbidden. Men who were tough to work, not weep. Ancestors who buried their pain in silence, rage, or retreat. These ancestral memories live in your divine masculine's blood, bones, and breath. And so he carries the shame of not knowing how to love, the guilt of repeating his father's mistakes, the fear of becoming the very man who wounded him. But that's the beautiful thing about the twin flame journey. It's not about judgment. It's about transfiguration, Your divine masculine, he's here to end the silence, not repeat it. He's here to return to love, not perform for it. So that's the beauty of being aware of what's going on. So our role as the divine feminine is very sacred. We are the sacred mirror, not the savior. So remember, our role is not to rescue our divine masculine. Our role is we are a mirror of reparenting at the highest level of soul alchemy. Especially, like I said earlier in the video, when we speak truth with compassion, hold boundaries without punishment, choose presence without chasing, reflect his greatness without collapsing into need. This is when you become the first mirror that says, hey, you are safe, you are seen, you are loved, not because you perform, but because you exist. And this does not mean mothering him. And often as divine feminine, we have the tendency to mother our divine masculines because we don't know how else to show love because of our own mother wounds or father wounds or just, the whole healing process brings that up. So that's why it does not mean mothering it. It means refusing to enable a shadow while holding space for him to rise. So that's why as divine feminines, we should not beg. We bless the return. And remember, our very sovereignty becomes the portal he may one day walk through when he chooses to father his inner boy. So finally, healing the father wound when he chooses to rise. So the true healing begins not when he blames his father, but when he says, I choose to end this cycle with me. I forgive the man who couldn't love me. I now give to myself what he could not. I return to my divine father, source, God, the eternal cosmic consciousness. This is when he stops abandoning when things get real. This is when he wouldn't lash out or say, block you on social media or tell you I'll never ever speak to you again or run away from you or say hurtful things, or just evades you or makes you feel miserable. This is when he speaks instead of shutting down. He stays present with emotion, and he stays present when you are emotional towards him as well, and how he honors you without control or withdrawal, and find power in presence and not dominance. So that's why, guys, this mini discourse is so important, because it's a deep dive into how much your divine masculine is affected by the father wound. And often it tends to affect his life in ways that are often unseen. And that's why it's so important to delve deeper and reflect on why it is so important to understand how he's born with his father shapes the way he loves, the way he holds power, and how he returns to you in the capacity where he's able to fully be in union with you. So if you guys have enjoyed this discourse, do share your views. And also, if you guys are interested in a father wounds healing, you can check out my website. And I hope you have enjoyed this mini discourse. I wanted to touch on this. So we'll be talking more about divine masculine, delve deeper into divine masculine topics. And I will also be doing the divine feminine series, all for us divine feminines, and yeah. In fact, I was thinking of another topic that I was going to delve deeper into. I wanted to focus a little bit on the pre-union stages, um, how to actually, transmute the emotions that you may feel when your divine masculine reconnects with you after a long period of absence. So we will keep talking about all these interesting topics via mini discourses. And if you guys need more personalized help in your journey, do not hesitate to book a session with me via my website. All right, see you all again for the next discourse.